Hello, hello. We are here at Prince George's Community College on, what is this, April 20th, 4/20 of 2017. My name is Donisea Dunk, and here I have with me United States military veteran Mia Outlaw, born on December 23rd, 1981. So, Miss Mia, what branch were you in?
I was in the United States Navy.
The Navy vet.
Yes.
Did you enjoy that?
Hoo-yah, yes, it was very, very good. Great experience of a lifetime.
And where did you serve?
I served in Norfolk, Virginia, and then in Monterey, California for about a year, and then finally before I separated in Augusta, Georgia.
And how long were you in the military?
8 years.
Okay. And what rank did you achieve while you were in the Navy?
I achieved second class petty officer rank, which is on the enlisted side of the Navy is an E5. It's just before first class petty officer, and most people know Navy chiefs, chief petty officer, and it's 2 ranks below chief petty officer.
Okay, thank you for that explanation for us in layman's terms. So now obviously you weren't always in the military, so what was your childhood like growing up? Where did you grow up?
I grew up pretty much half my life in New Jersey. I was born in Newark, New Jersey, which is the city. Well, yeah, when I was growing up, it was the hood. As I understand it now, Mayor Cory Booker, now Senator, has cleaned it up a bit. But then we moved to Sayreville, New Jersey, which some people know as the home of John Bon Jovi, if they're familiar.
And who is we? Sorry. Who is we?
Oh, it would be my brother, my older brother, Sean, and then my mom, Linda. So it was just the 3 of us. And then we moved to Virginia in around 1992 or 93 in Northern Virginia, Woodbridge, Virginia. So I pretty much grew up, half in New Jersey, half in Virginia. Of course, when we moved to Virginia, we had family in New Jersey, New York, so we always traveled back. And my dad also lived in New Jersey as well.
What was that like moving down to Virginia with your dad still in Jersey?
Okay, so I wasn't very happy about it at all. New Jersey was, all I knew except for, visiting in North Carolina with family. Like, I did not want to move to Virginia at all. All my friends were in New Jersey, any way that you would expect it to be as like a preteen, young.
Right.
And my dad, it was fine at the time when I grew up. My dad and I were somewhat close, but not, if that makes sense. But we did still have a lot of family that were in New York and New Jersey, and that was kind of hard. But like I said, we always traveled back. And in my childhood, it was kind of like a lot of activities evolved around family. We always had family reunions. We're always getting together for birthdays and all of those things. So it was sort of a mixed bag of things. But my main thing as a young child is that I just didn't want to move to this new place, this new school. And I didn't get the greatest reception when I was there in Virginia because of my accent. Everyone was like, oh my God, why do you sound like that? And I'm like, I don't know, what do you mean? And I didn't feel like they had an accent because like I said, I had family in North Carolina.
Right.
So another big part of my childhood was cheerleading. I started cheerleading when I was 6 or 7 and continued out of high school and graduating. So that was a very big part of my life. And
was that kind of something that you held on to for like a security because you were in this new place? And so to have something to be able to connect to? Actually,
that would be complicated because you're coming from cheerleading already, but then you get to a new school with new girls that you don't know and they don't know you. And it's like you're trying to try out for this cheerleading team. Another thing in middle school, which is when I entered into Virginia, my cheerleading coach was a Kentucky Wildcats cheerleading coach. And if anybody knows anything about cheerleading, that is the cheerleading team. Like for NCA, National Cheerleading Association, that is the team. So she was tough. And so that was intimidating. Like, oh, I came from Pee Wee cheerleading. Now I'm doing this. But all in all, because I have such a gregarious personality, it worked out. I got along with the girls easily and just fell right in. So
That's good. So then moving, because this is preteen, so moving into your teenage years to young adult times, what was that like? So you're established in Virginia now.
Yeah. Teenage years, I mean, there were ups and downs in school. I mean, you know, teenagers, it's the same everywhere. Like they say ghettos are the same everywhere.
Right.
Being a teenager is kind of the same everywhere. You know, like you have your ups and downs, and one week this person's your friend, the next week this person's talking behind your back. And so, I mean, it was okay. I got used to it. Family was a great support. My mom wasn't always there necessarily because she had to work. So, you know, a lot of time spent with friends and then just going away with family for weekends and stuff like that kind of like pulled me through. And then into growing up, I was kind of already secure. Being in Virginia, had experienced DC and Maryland and all those things. So kind of just went right into it, from a teenager into like, you know, upper teens and going into my 20s. So.
Right. And you said spending time with friends. What did you do with your friends? What were your activities that you can say on the record?
So yeah, like it wasn't, you know, not that I was a square, but cheerleading took a lot of time. I'll just put it that way. Like we were competitive and all year round we cheered, even in summer, because, you know, we went to camps and competed. So that took a lot of time. Outside of that, it was just the normal things like getting together with friends. Oh, let's go bowling. Let's go skating in the roller skating rink. Like, let's go to the movies. Just your normal stuff. Like, yes, when I got to later in high school, there were parties, you know, and they would have parties, and, you know, a lot of kids were into drugs and drinking and all that. But I mean, even though I was in the midst of it, like I didn't really have the desire to partake in it. So it's not something that I would do. Like obviously I had close friends that did. So yeah, that's the extent of the extracurriculars. And then once I got to my senior year, I got into street racing, car street racing.
Like Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious before it came out. Like we were street racing, and I mean, it was like anywhere you got to a red light. If you see somebody who's trying to race, you're gonna race on the street with other cars. And then we started on the weekends, we would go to Annapolis, if I'm not mistaken, that's still a place where people go. We called it Metro. And we would go up there and race around Good Luck Road and, you know, just be rascals out there racing.
So in these early ages, did you have any plans for the future?
I did. Initially, I wanted to be a marine biologist. And I actually was accepted to San Diego State University to go pursue that. I sort of chickened out because I was like, oh my gosh, going all the way across to California, like I'm not gonna know anyone.
His family was important.
Yes, family and my friends here obviously was important. And so I kind of changed my mind and like reevaluated. I kind of said to myself, like, I don't know if that's exactly what I want to do. Like, yes, I love the water, I love marine life, I love to know about it, but I wasn't sure if that's exactly what I wanted to do. So when I started to think about it, I was like, man, like the one constant in my life that I have a passion for is culture. You know, other languages, other cultures, you know, other than American culture. All different races. I always had all different races as my friends, and, you know, wanted to learn all about their culture. And so I said, you know what, I think that's probably what I should be doing. Like in my heart, that's what I want to work with, whether it's languages or just culture studies or just being somewhere in the world, you know, partaking in it. So that's when I started to think about, okay, how can I kind of like change direction of what I want to do and kind of like set myself up in my 20s. So that's when I started thinking of languages, and I was like, you know, I really love languages, and I love being able to speak different languages. So this is what I'm going to go for. And that's what I started to do. It took me a while to do it because, you know, I had to work and support myself, but that's where I kind of started leading to do in school. And so I went to a few different schools, but I had finally started learning Japanese at Northern Virginia Community College. And then from there, I knew I didn't have an exact plan of how to get there, and I wasn't executing because I was distracted, you know, making money and working. But I knew that was pretty much where my path was going to be.
And so did this lead you towards, like, in the direction of the Navy? How did the military become an option in your life?
So the military became an option by a very good family friend, Mildred, who was a retired master sergeant and worked with the Joint Chiefs at the Pentagon. And she saw me chasing my tail, like in my early 20s. Like, why don't you just go into the military? You want to be a linguist, you can go there, they'll teach you the language, and you know, you can at least do something, like get your foot in something. So she was always saying that in my ear, and then I kept it in the back of my head. It took me 5 or 6 years to actually do it. I went in the Navy really late at 26 years old, but I knew that my mind wasn't right at the time to like go into the Navy, because you have to have a certain mentality to go in there and actually be successful.
And that's what I was just getting ready to ask you, actually. Like, how did you transition from your life of being able to do, you know, what you want to do? Obviously, you had some structure in cheerleading, and trying to be a marine biologist would take some structure. But so you had your structure, but how did you really transition from that civilian life to military life?
Really, what it is okay, so the overarching thing with me is that when I have a goal, it's like by any means necessary, whatever I have to take to get there, I guess the quote unquote fake it till you make it. So if I have to endure certain things just to get to where I want to be, fine, I can do it. It's not going to kill me, so I'll do it. So that kind of like internally is something that, you know, I don't know if that's just innate, that's what God, how he programmed me, but that's what I did. Like, okay, I'm going to do this. I don't even think about it. Like, I don't even think about, oh, what if this happens, or this stumbling block, or what if, you know, none of that. Like, I'm just like, all right, it's like laser vision. Like, this is what I'm doing. The goal's over there, and I'm just going to keep looking at that goal, but I'm just going to go through and navigate and do the things and endure the things I need to endure to get there.
Right. So what made you choose the Navy out of all of the different military options?
So, okay, initially, I have to be honest, everyone, you know, my aunts and other people, influences like her, they're like, oh, the Air Force, right? And even inside, when people were saying the Air Force, something inside of me was kind of like, I don't really want to do the Air Force. I know I didn't want to do the Army, and I know I didn't want to do the Marines. And maybe I didn't know just yet that I wanted to do the Navy, but I was like, I don't want to do Air Force. Like, there was just something inside of me that was just like, but I did. I took the test with the Air Force. And thank God they were like, there was some reason, I really can't remember, some reason why. They're very selective anyways.
Okay.
So there was some reason why they said they wouldn't take me. I can't remember. But then, you know, I thought about the Navy, and I thought about my dad was in the Navy, and his brother was in the Navy. My dad was like a boiler technician in the Navy, which is like a really like hard job on the ship. It's like a shipboard job specifically, and you're like fixing like whatever the pipes and stuff are on the ship. And then my uncle was in the aviation side. He was an aviation mechanic, worked on planes and things. So something called out to me about the Navy. And then, at the time, I had a boyfriend who was in the Navy.
There we go.
Yeah. I forgot about that. But, you know, before I met him, I already knew that I was going to be. But he did help, because he gave me a lot of, like, ins and, you know, kind of, like, the workings of the Navy and stuff like that. So he did help.
Right.
But, I mean, it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm going to join the Navy, and then I'm going to be with him, and we're going to get married. No, it wasn't like that. Like, It was, and actually he kind of discouraged me a bit because he had a hard time getting in the Navy. Like they do things sometimes. They lie to you and say all these things, and they lied to him. But he wanted to be a Navy SEAL, but he couldn't swim. And I was like, so how is them lying to you keeping you from being a Navy SEAL? No, you can't swim. That's why you can't be a Navy SEAL. So he was kind of like discouraging me, like, they're gonna lie to you. And I'm like, look, I have my goal. I know what I'm gonna do. I can handle this. Right?
So you being focused on your goals, I imagine, helped you through boot camp and basic training.
Yes.
So what was that like? How was that experience?
Okay, so, oh my God. Now, keep in mind, I was 26 years old.
Right.
Okay, 4 years from 30.
Right.
You go to boot camp and you're with 89% like people just out of high school. Let me not say people just out of high school, like they're not people. Like, no, like, you know, the mentality is different when you're younger. I know, I've been younger. So when you get in there, I'm in there like, all right, let's get business done. You know, let's get this done. And they're like worried about this. She said this, or I'm in charge, so you need to listen to me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, and then you have the, what they call the RDCs, which is like, I guess everyone would identify that term as drill sergeants, like the people that are there to kind of play a mental game with you is all it is. Like they want to agitate you, yell at you for like random reasons, and sometimes they come in at 4 a.m. in the morning and like bang on things and yell like, get up, get up, get up, get up. And then like, everybody get down, you know, make your bed, do like something. It's a mental game because they want to see that you can handle it.
Right. So they try to break you mentally, but then what about physically?
Physically, they did. Like they would do it all together, all in one package. Like they come in, for instance, they had this term when they come in, oh, we're about to make it rain in here. We're about to make it rain. And what they mean is they're about to work us. They call it beat us. They're about to work us out with all these like really, really hard exercises until the condensation on the wall and the sweat from everybody doing it is like dripping off the ceiling. So they call it make it rain. So it was just things like that physically and mentally that they would do. Of course, they would teach you in such a way like how to be neat, you know, make up your rack or your bed. We would have inspections like under, like kind of like the rack is on the ship. They had it designed like that at boot camp. You lift it up and there's like compartments where there's folded clothes, and they would like kind of like use that as an assessment on us. Like, oh, like you get a hit here because you didn't have this folded this certain way, or your toothbrush and all of your toiletries are supposed to be here, but it wasn't like this, so then you get a hit. So they kind of like put you on a point system. To create, it's not only to create an atmosphere where you can get better at what you're doing and pay attention to detail, but also a way to merit, like get you merit points. So if I had 5 assessments and I never got a hit, then I would get some sort of a medal or, you know, some recognition for it.
And I'm sorry, where were you in basic
In
training?
Great Lakes, Illinois is where the
Illinois.
Navy basic training is.
Right. And so what was your expectation of the Navy versus the reality of it?
My expectation was that I was going to get a lot of technical training, that I felt like I was going to get a lot of training that was going to put me ahead of where the point that I was, even though I had school training. I felt like it was going to make me more disciplined. Because as you said, I did have some sort of discipline, but not as much. Or there was sort of an intricate discipline that I got from the Navy that I didn't already have. So those were like the 2 big expectations that I expected. The reality of it was, actually, that's what happened. You know, I got a lot of technical training that now my resume boasts from. I got a lot of life training from the first duty station that I was at. I was with only chiefs and officers, so higher ranking. So I got a lot of like, knowledge from them as far as the Navy goes and the operations of the Navy.
And where were you, or what were you doing in this first station?
In the first duty station, I was a chaplain's assistant.
Okay.
And so the Navy chaplain is basically, if people can remember from a movie, if they're not familiar, like whenever someone's dying on the battlefield and they call for a chaplain, and it's like the pastor or, priest. Actually, the Navy has everything. They have rabbis, priests, pastors, Protestant, they call it. And so I was just the assistant to the chaplain. We were stationed at an air wing, so it was an independent duty, and we had things like leadership conferences for pilots, and the chaplain would facilitate those conferences. We had a pre-marriage and newlywed retreat that we would put on quarterly. Prayer breakfast, where at one point we had a special guest speaker who was an actual prisoner of war in the Vietnam War, and he was a pilot and his plane went down.
Wow.
And they had him in the famous Hanoi Hilton prison. So it was all sort of, that job was neat in that you did community service, you put on retreats for people. Basically, the chaplain is like the support system for the personnel in the military.
And how did it compare being stationed versus when you finally got deployed?
Okay, so deployment, my eyes are gonna light up.
Yeah, we're gonna go deeper into deployment.
Okay, so being stationed, I was on shore duty. So there's two sides to the Navy. There's shore duty and then there's sea duty, where you're on the ship all the time. I was on shore duty, so I have to admit it's a little bit of a cakewalk on shore duty. The hardest thing you have to deal with is just big personalities, hard personalities.
With a lot of the upper officers.
Yeah, well, for anyone.
Okay.
Even the people that work next to you, they call it the blue shirts, other petty officers, your leading petty officer. I was lucky because it was just me and the chaplain. So I was in charge of everything that was executed from the chaplain's orders. But so being on shore in the Navy is a bit of a cakewalk. You get to go home every day. It's like a 9 to 5. And then you go home every day. You have weekends off unless you're in a mission where it's 24 hours mission. On sea duty or being deployed, you're on the ship and that's all you do. That's all you, whatever your job is on the ship, that's all you do. If they have activities on the ship, you're on the ship doing those activities. If they, until you go into port, and hit a port call, like in different cities, you're just on the ship, and it's hard because you can't talk on the phone. Like, unless the space that you work in has a phone that dials out to home, you won't be talking on the phone until you go into port. And sometimes a ship can be out to sea for 30 days straight.
So you weren't able to talk to any of your family or friends while you were there, or did you communicate a different way?
You could talk to them on email, but sometimes because of security reasons, they would shut down the whole network, especially if they knew that we were going into port. They didn't want anybody saying anything, so they would just shut down the internet.
Wow.
So it was intermittent. You just couldn't pick up the phone. Your family and your friends are not just like one phone call or one email away, because you may be waiting forever to get a response from them on email.
And how did you feel being separated from your family like that?
Now, I loved it. Okay, I'm a different, because I'm not married and I don't have kids, like, yes, like my family, I'm close to my mom and brother and, nieces and nephews and all that stuff. But I could just be there, solitary, just having fun. And when I was deployed, I was actually a linguist, so I was no longer a chaplain's assistant.
So you were doing what you wanted to do then?
Yes. By that time, I'd finally made it to becoming a linguist, a translator, got trained in Persian Farsi, which is the language of Iran. And once I got deployed, it was just like, oh, I'm ready to go.
So where did you first get deployed?
So I first got deployed to the Persian Gulf, which is in the Middle East, which is surrounded by Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. And actually Saudi Arabia is there too, and Oman. So I was in the middle of the Persian Gulf whichever ship needed a linguist, a Persian Farsi linguist, they would call sort of like the ops person who would be like, all right, we have a Persian Farsi linguist, we're sending them there. And so I would just...
Sorry, are you the only one that spoke Persian Farsi on the boat?
No.
Okay.
Well, yes.
Okay.
Usually, so we were out in a team of 3, but on each boat, there's just one linguist.
Okay.
So you're one of one.
So you were getting everything.
Yes.
You were hearing everything that was going on. You
Yes.
knew all the plans.
Yeah, because, well, in intelligence, that's kind of like a perk of being in the intelligence department. Like, you know what's going on, you know what's going to happen, you know when imminent danger is close, like, and you're usually on that front line kind of providing the intelligence to the tactical commander or the captain of the ship.
So did you have a moment where you realized, like, pretty much that you're really out here defending your country and that your life is really in danger now?
Yeah, I mean, even before I got deployed, so 2 years before I was deployed, I worked in support of the National Security Agency. So you already know that you're defending, you know, the country, that you're providing like intelligence that the White House is making actions on, like something that you have figured out from analyzing in the intelligence that you have, the media that you are given. Sometimes they have to make a call like to the White House. And it happened a couple of times even before I was deployed. So when I was deployed, it was kind of like, okay, I already have this sense that I'm defending the country, but now it's like I'm the one who's right here, and we're the ones that are like kind of in danger if stuff goes wrong. Like, we're right here, and we're on a boat in the middle of the ocean, like, so it was kind of like a sense that you already had, but like more of a danger, I guess, when you're there.
So was there a time where you were really afraid for your life?
Okay, so I could say yes and no. I'll say no because I have this weird thing where even if something dangerous is happening, like, I'm kind of like, nothing's gonna happen. Like, there's some indifference that I have towards that. Yes, because, how can I say, I already knew this target. So the people that we had the most problems with is the Iranian Navy, because, just to put it bluntly, they hate us. They hate America. So I already knew this target, you know, knew how they move, how they shake, and all that stuff. So, and I know what their end goal is for us. I mean, that's open source. You can see it in the news that they always have death to America rallies and all that stuff. So yes, like it's, I would be stupid to not think or to just brush it off like, oh, they're not gonna do anything. Any day, at any moment, anything can happen. And it's usually when you're comfortable and your guard is off. If I could mention USS Cole, that's what happened with them. Like, you know, they didn't know that this was going to happen, and then all of a sudden they have this small boat that is acting as a bomb and has a bomb on it and just rams right into the ship.
And there was a time, right, that the Iranian boats were approaching your ship.
Yes, open source, the news story is out there, just in case, like, nobody knows this is not classified anymore, but they do. They were doing things like having their small boats come straight at our ships, and then they'd swerve right in time. The incident, it escalated so much that one of the ships that I was actually on the ship that was doing security for 2 other ships, and one of the other ships ended up shooting at the Iranian boat because it was just coming close and doing like crazy things, like it was gonna ram into the ship. So they actually shot at it. In that moment, the captain had come, well, he would come a lot to me and be like, you know, can you tell me, like, what is this about? Like, what's going on? And a lot of times we were postured to actually, like, go full on and like shoot them out of the water, you know, whatever we needed to do, because we have to protect our assets. So.
And how were you trained to handle that fear and handle the thought of having to shoot at people?
Well,
or give the orders, I guess.
Well, okay, so, all right. The people on Navy ships that actually, you know, shoot the guns or shoot missiles are certain like fire control people. So those people are trained to do that, and they pretty much are trained on the weapons, but they're also trained that if something happens and the captain comes in and says, do this, then you better do it. So that's as far as that goes. For linguists, the main thing that you're trained on is knowing patterns. And a lot of it just comes with instinct that you have. Like you can't really train tactically sometimes, and that's what this involves. Like you have to know from patterns, like, and that's how intelligence works. Like, you know, from patterns in history, they call it historical patterns, where, okay, we know that this target will do this, or this is what their behavior is, or if we have an aircraft carrier going through this area, this is how they're going to react to it, you know? So it's kind of like knowing over time, right, through intelligence that's gathered, that, hey, these are the big things that we should worry about, but these are the things that we normally see, so maybe you don't have to worry about it. And what's scary about that is that you really never know. Because I bet you if we go and we look at the initial start of like wars and stuff like that, it's always some one thing that just happens and you're like, oh, you didn't know this was gonna happen.
Right.
So you really, there's a way to prepare for it, but really if it happens, it happens. And then you go from there, so.
And were there ever any casualties in your unit?
No, only if there's a man overboard. If somebody like, sometimes the seas will get rough and people, there's certain spots on the edge of the ship that they tell you do not like stand there, but people do it anyways. And sometimes like out of nowhere, like the sea will just be rough and the boat will go a certain way and people will fall over, and if they don't find them, right, you know what happened.
So tell me a couple of your most memorable experiences while being deployed. They could be good, bad, scary.
Okay, so I wish I could tell you the classified stuff, but I can't. That's the juiciest stuff. Let me see, like, on port calls. Okay, so people absolutely lose their minds on port calls. They wow out, like, oh, I'm free. I've been on the ship for like 30 days, like straight. I'm getting out here. So we had a pilot, actually, this is really sad. We had a pilot who, this is in the news as well. He was so drunk, he was in a cab, he ends up punching the cab driver, steals the cab, and then like wrecks it somewhere. What? Yes, and this was a pilot.
And where was this?
This was in, I want to say, I hope this story is out there. I think it is. This is in Greece, I think.
Okay.
So I wasn't exactly on that port stop, but I had just gotten off the ship that went to that port stop. And so obviously I heard about it. And then there was another guy who in Oman, he stole jewelry, which you cannot in any Middle Eastern country. That's like the dumbest thing to do, because they will kill you. So he stole jewelry, and basically the Omani authorities, they were like, we're taking him. He's staying in Oman jail. You will not get him back.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know exactly what happened to it, and maybe I think that was a Marine, actually, that happened to. So there's those things. My most memorable thing, stopping in Dubai and Bahrain, is shopping.
I know you have a lot of experience doing that.
Oh my gosh, the shopping in I don't know where else. I've only been to Dubai and Bahrain, okay? Manama, Bahrain. The shopping is amazing. The food is amazing. The amenities, the hotels you stay in, it's just so like, it's like the Middle Easterners, they're like, yeah, we're just gonna borrow from certain things, like, you know, certain developments in America, like shopping malls and stuff like that, but we're just going to do it 10 times better because we have the money to do it, right? And then, oh my gosh, and then the brunch. So brunch is a big thing in Bahrain. And there was this brunch that was amazing. It went from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. You don't have to leave. You can use the pool there. They had, I mean, it was so crazy to me. They had a clown. They had a clown blowing up and doing like the balloon animals. And I'm just like, what is this? So yeah, those were the biggest things. And then obviously the job, just doing the job on the ship was just everything to me. Like I love doing the job.
So do you recall your last day of service?
Oh, okay. So my last day of service was February 13th, 2017 this year. And remember how I mentioned to you that I kind of have the mindset that like I'm tunnel vision on the goal and everything else in between is just like, all right, like I'm navigating. Well, it all like came to a halt on the day that I got out, the morning that I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is my last day in the Navy. And I actually like broke down, like that tunnel vision that I had just kind of like was like, okay, it's done now, you finished. So I like had like a breakdown, not like a bad breakdown, but just a breakdown like, oh my God, I can't believe, you know, God brought me through this whole time and it's like, it's done and it's finished. Like so that day, and then I started calling people, family members and friends that, you know, supported me and they were always there for me. Like whenever I felt like, you know, stressed, you know, those family members were there. I started I text them because I was like, I'm not going to call you and cry. So I text them, but my one Aunt Carolyn, who means the world to me, I had to call her on the phone, and I broke down, like just hearing her voice, and she broke down, and you know, so it was a great day, but it was also like a realization, like, oh my gosh, like I did this and it's done, like so.
All right, that's great. And okay, let me see. Have you carried on any relationships with the people that you were with on the boat?
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you close with them still now?
Absolutely. Like most of the people that I was close with in the Navy, I'm still, you know, in touch with. I know that I'll always be in touch with them. And even the ones that I wasn't so close, I always felt like a brotherhood and a sisterhood with them. So I've told them before I left, if you ever need me for anything, like my number's not going to change. So even if, you know, those people that I wasn't as close with, if they contacted me, I would definitely be there for them. So. And
how has your transition back to civilian life been, since you were talking about how pretty much that tunnel vision is kind of gone now? It's nothing really to focus on now.
Well, there is still a goal. Like I want to eventually translate for the State Department. So now I have new tunnel vision. New tunnel vision, but there's a nuance because I had to kind of take a break and relax, you know, kind of decompress and kind of get myself ready for being a civilian. And it's very difficult to, I want to say that it's harder to get out than it is to go in. So there was a lot of stressful things with transitioning. Of course, the mental part of transitioning, the physical part too, because, you know, it's on me now to make sure that I stay physically fit and even without somebody who's going to be testing me twice a year, which is what they did in the Navy. But mostly mentally and just adjusting to being back. And it's weird because even though I was a civilian before, it's like it's very different. I don't really know how to explain it.
Right, you view the world differently now?
Yeah, well, it's like there's a different behavior, like there's a different accountability as a civilian than there is as a sailor or a Marine or airman or soldier. So,
Right.
but yeah, overall, it's been a challenge, but it's not anything that I haven't been able to navigate and get through and deal with. And so now I may be trying to do a contract linguist job with a government contractor until I finally get to the State Department and be able to translate there.
And how has the Navy affected your life and your future plans now?
It was actually a huge blessing. I mean, like I said, just the experience of being in there, so many things you learn, and the kind of professional profile that it gives you. And then the fact of just being able to serve, like even though you don't serve in such a way where you're in Afghanistan or you're in Iraq and you're taken on fire and you're given fire back, like even though it's not that kind of serving, like you still serve in a way.
Right.
And just the pride of knowing that you're serving for your country, no matter how messed up our country may be. You still have that pride in your country, like you're here, your mark is here, and you're making your mark. You're either making it in a good way or you're making it in a bad way, hopefully a good way. But it's just the pride in that, and just knowing that you can, in your own little way, like try to make the country a better place.
Right.
So
Right.
it's that's really, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Miss Mia Outlaw.
Thank you.
This is my aunt, guys. So, surprise.
It's my pleasure.
Actually, think I got this from Dubai.
Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah, so thank you, Miss Mia Outlaw. Thank you to PGCC.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Prince George's Community College here in Largo, Maryland, for having us in this lovely studio. And because it's not said enough, thank you to the families of active duty military for your support. And thank you to all the veterans and active duty military for your time,
Yes.
your effort, and your dedication to keeping this country safe.
Yes.
Thank you.